Hello and welcome to ZPR, Zanu Project Rethink. And here is Franck Zanu. And I have a very interesting topic today to discuss, I believe. If you are patient, have the time and listen to these monologue till the end, I strongly believe that many of you are going to find some meaning. In fact, many are going to find some tools to use now on, either to rethink, adjust our character and personality in society, and as we all used to say, make this place a little better than we came to meet it. It's no secret that we think the world right now is in turmoil. Simple human conduct is questionable. The behavior you see in public places, it is disgusting. Some of the things you see people traveling to other people's spaces in countries or cities just allow themselves to do. It is really disgusting when you see the amount of demands that is placed on the rest of society by some few. They need to be recognized above everything and everybody. So today I'm going to talk about being human. And this came from a conversation this weekend when I just, out of inspiration, proclaimed that yes, indeed, I have been around too long, seen too much for me to be able to boldly claim that black people are too human. And that is where the problem lies. For those of you who have children or about to have children or are raising children, maybe this would interest you a little bit. We are not like tools and machines. For tools and machines, their essence is determined before they are created. Of course, the guy who created the iron comb knew that this is what it would do. So the essence comes before the creation of tools and machines and appliances. Humans, no, not so. Humans, the creation comes before the essence, which means once you arrive here, you have to determine somewhat by choice through your environment how useful you are going to be to society. Painful indeed as a process, but that is the reality. Being human, according to dictionaries, is simple. The biological reality that we face as Homo sapiens, combined with some very complex emotional traits that comes along with it. That is simple, the definition of being human on a biological level. Babies are at the most level of humans. They rely on food, milk, drink, poop. We've all commonly been at that state. You walk on two legs, you have two limbs, arms, you rely on food, oxygen, water. You would live biologically. But is that the end of us? No. That is where the essence comes in. You want to become a valuable member of your community, of your society, of your culture. That's where creativity, the abilities to build, entrepreneurism, self-development, self-awareness, self-control, impulse control, emotional intelligence comes in. You see, if you leave yourself at the human level, you are at a very dangerously emotional level. Because the emotions are not too far from the biological reality of what a human being is. Because the traits we address and respond to are purely based biologically. Your feelings, your emotions. But humans, since we say we are different from animals and the trees of the jungle and the fishes of the ocean, we strive to elevate ourselves above the human level. That is where being too human has never served society. And I'm going to ask you to watch this video.
I don't even think these people are human. Like, I look at Elon Musk and Sam Altman and Peter Thiel, and I'm pretty sure they're hybrid.
There's Candace Owens claiming that Elon Musk, and threw in a couple of other people, Ottman and of course Peter Thiel, that they are not human. And then this black woman would say the same thing about Elon Musk, that he's not human. Do you see? What are they addressing? That these are people whose names are known by these people, yet they don't know the name of you and I. But we all know the name of Elon Musk, all the way to China and India, Bangladesh and Switzerland. Elon Musk. If this man wakes up every day and limit himself to only the human level, the total amount of employees he has to deal with, investors, family, friends, if he relies and deals on his emotions, you think he would have time enough to devote and focus, discipline himself to build in less than 20 years? Now, good or bad, I'm not talking about that. What has made his name become a household name? No. You see, always when somebody in our society does something that is almost impossible for you, we say, oh man, that is not human at all. That is not humanly possible. That is not humanly possible. What we're trying to say is that this man or woman has elevated himself or herself above a certain level, above you. We were created as human beings, animal beings, jungle beings, sea beings. Wherever you are, you can breathe and rely on the three things, which is food, oxygen, and air. Of course, and water. Of course, you are a being. Yes. We have inanimate and animate objects, right? Yes. You are one of the population of animate objects. You share the same thing trees share. They have to rely photosynthetically on three things for trees to grow and maintain life until finally they wither away. Animals, both in the ocean and above the ocean, also have to rely on the same things humans. We humans, but we are Homo sapiens, we walk on two legs. But we don't live on an island. We get to grow, develop, change environment, move from a place to place, so we can work with others, sometimes not even familiar to us. If you remain on just the human level, you will fail in society and then blame it on everybody else. You would fail not because you didn't make money. So when we talk about successful people, the first thing that jumps into the head of people is, oh, money, and the car he drives, the house he lives in, and the clothes he wears. No, as a matter of fact, that is reserved for those who have kept themselves and remain only on the human level. Because for them, status is what determines that I'm a human being. No. Those who have elevated themselves above being just human beings are the ones who exercise true freedom. And I'll come to that. What is freedom? Those who have remained on the human level always look to others for the freedom they want. But the truth is this, and it's painful and scary. There is no institution on earth, no government on earth, there's no individual on earth that can ever give you freedom. Impossible, has never happened. Radical freedom is you being able to realize that once upon a time you were born and brought into this world on a human level, which means you are controlled by biology. And then you rely on external things like water, air, oxygen, and food to survive. But to prove yourself as a champion and someone who is free, you need to elevate yourself above that human level of emotions. The higher you elevate yourself above human, the higher your intellect becomes. No wonder in the past, philosophers could never live among us. They were described as being hermit characters. Once they become more sophisticated, they withdraw completely from society. Schopenhauer, I believe, Arthur Schopenhauer, yeah, he died somewhere nobody knew where. Radical freedom. Now, this is different from, I'm sure most of you have read his 1878 book on human or to human, which is, of course, Friedrich Nietzsche. No, it's a little different. If you read that book, 1878, 68 or 78 book, which is now contained in the library of All Too Human, Nietzsche talks about how human beings, no matter what your status in life, higher or lower, we are all bound to fallibility. We were fallible human beings, that we're bound to make mistakes, to err is human, and so on and so forth. So he rejected completely the romanticism he started with, which is, of course, his influencer, Arthur Schopenhauer, and began to really look into the reality of human beings. It's not too different. However, that same Nietzsche became what is known as the radical free man. He's the one who coined the term free spirit, which means he was relying, Nietzsche believed that only the avant-garde thinkers, the ones he referred to as free spirits, which also is the free thinkers, that people who are able to think freely and radically, the avant-garde thinkers, are the only ones who can bring some semblance of dignity for human life, and society will be built on it. But first, yourself has to be free. So what is that freedom? That freedom is limited to those who become self-aware, which is part of being less human. Introspection, becoming less human. Emotional intelligence, becoming less human. Because you've come to realize that you work with others. You would work throughout your life until you die with other people. And if your feelings and emotions are higher than your intellect, then you're going to run into conflict. A man who cannot spare 2.5 minutes to work with a law enforcement officer by simply responding to his request and then drive and go on your merry way, you are not free, you are controlled by society. A man or woman who cannot have a conflict in public and be able to settle it amicably, you are not free, you are controlled. A man who allows himself to respond to just words, you're not free, you're controlled. A man who would throw tantrum, get violent and kill somebody over an N-word, you're not free, you are controlled. A man who will not interpret everything he hears from other people in his own words based on his or her own narrow experience and call it racism, you're not free, you're controlled. You become like a computer keyboard. All I have to do is hit the enter key and you will do something. You become predictable because you've remained on the human level. Societies where emotions are fed more than the intellect, the people are on the human level. That's where you see many uncontrolled violence against each other. Not against some presumed enemy outside. I call that sensible violence. Even if your assumptions or presumptions about other groups being enemies and you attack them. But when it's directed into the community, into that society, and the violence is visited upon each other within, on women, on children, on each other, that means those people are only at a human level. You see, but the word human itself is so deceptive. When you hear it, it conjures emotion. No wonder we introduce it in human rights. And did we consume that word, hook, line, and sinker? Or when you hear it, human rights, it sounds so good. Do you know where it goes to first when you hear it? Straight to your emotions, not into your intellect. The entire writing of the Human Rights Charter, whether by Gary Davis, his 13 or 16 principles of the human right, when you read the lines, it's all emotional. And people quote it all the time. It is my human right. It is my right. If it is indeed your right, nobody would need to write it into a book and then ask other people to safeguard it for you because it's impossible. Nobody can do it. Okay, they should have called it civil rights or civic rights, not human rights. We live in a civil society. The contract signed by humans with the government, or humans and humans, is called social contract, not human contract. Social contract. And what other civilized countries and cultures have done was to pursue the installment of a very dynamic civil administration that is leveled for everyone to be able to contribute through the intellect, not emotions. Now, if they had called it civil rights, it wouldn't have the same effect. Oh, people are milking that term today, just watching. People are studying courses in school to become a civil rights lawyer, a human rights lawyer. No. If we live in society and we're going to rely on each other, and we're going to contribute for the development of that society, then people will rely solely on your intellect, not your emotions. Isn't surprising to you when you look at it? Peter Thiel, Altman, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, the Amazon founder, and many, many more. Do you see them in public places throwing tantrum? No. These people's upper level intellect is consumed, creating essence for machines and now for people. When you are in control, over 144,000 employees worldwide, you're not human. You've elevated yourself above that. You must wake up every day and be concerned with what do they think about me. Somebody asked me the other day, Zanu, do you really care what people think about you? And I said, yes, I do. And she showed surprise. Why? I don't think you would care about. I said, why not? I'm above human. So I should care. Because I'm confident I can handle it because I live among human beings in society. And I need to elevate myself to a new level. So I should care what people think. If I have children, wouldn't it be nice for me to care what my children think about me? Yes. Because Nietzsche said, to err is human. If you're a coach, wouldn't you care what your team thinks about you? Yes. Because those who have elevated themselves beyond that emotional level, they are the ones with the confidence that they can take criticism and they can move on to develop better things. So they care. If you're a teacher in a classroom, wouldn't you want to know what your students think about your style of teaching? Why do we have reviews then? Why do we have reviews for inanimate objects? You buy a pillow on Amazon and they want you to leave a review. You go use it, come back and leave a review. That is an inanimate object. I am proving to society I'm here to work, I'm here to contribute. Everything I do is not because I just want to feel good and be validated. It's because I want to make sure that my contribution elevated society. So why wouldn't I care what people think about me? My confidence level says, go seek for it, ask for it. Because only a conflict will make me better. The reviews I will receive, constructive or non-constructive, will make me better. It is not the words used in the review, because I needed that to show you I am less human. I don't put my feelings first. To be free is for you to be able to think. That's it, according to Nietzsche. You have to become a radical thinker. Let's say, for example, if you encounter situations and they are unpleasant, don't demand that they are supposed to be pleasant. Gather more information about that unpleasant situation. And you are a champion when you do so, because you are using your intellect. You see, then next time that same condition repeats itself, you control it because you took time when it was unpleasant to gather more information about why it was unpleasant. And if the situation you encountered was pleasant, don't jump up and down in euphoria. Gather more information. Why was it pleasant? Otherwise, every situation will control you repeatedly. If the man or woman you encountered behaved in a way that didn't make you feel good, remember that moment you are operating at a human level. You're going to throw tantrums in an airplane, at an airport, at McDonald's, in the streets, everywhere, because you are too human. Our goal here, as beings that were placed here, is that when you go above the biological, after you can control the food, the water, the air, and whatever keeps you alive, you can control it. You can make choices. Babies don't. Animals don't. Is that you want to elevate beyond that natural biological state, because we share the same thing with all nature. And it doesn't make you special if you remain at that state. So yes, words are going to try you. Would you fly off the handle because somebody used the N-word? Would you fly off the handle because somebody behaved in a way you think, oh, it didn't make me feel good? You become like a baby walking around always wanting someone to make you feel good. Now that is a dangerous man or a dangerous woman, because there is no guarantee that anybody out there, hey, you don't know how this person woke up this morning, what news he got. He's lost his job, the mother is dead, his wife is diagnosed with cancer, his neighbor, you don't know. But why would you rely on the public when you can't even understand what people are going through, to think that when they encounter you, anything that comes out of them should make you feel good and pleasant? You are a weak man. As soon as you step out of your doorway, make the sign of the cross and prepare yourself for disappointment only. Become elevated pessimistic, which means I know I'm the only one who can control me. I'm the only one who has self-awareness about me. I don't know what others are going through. So I'm prepared that whatever I'm going to encounter is not going to be pleasant. And so when I do encounter it, it is no shock, because I try to gather more information about it. The optimistic ones are saying, no, when I step out, because I said a little prayer this morning to God, He better not disappoint me. Whoever I encounter, whichever situation it is, you better make sure I come out smiling. And if I don't, and I didn't like it, then I have a problem. But dear, you don't control other people and you don't control the world. And to be able to fit into it and smile and be powerful, you need to try consciously to become less human. And the world is dying slowly from that. The woke movement succeeded in elevating the human emotion of people, made them more human than the world has ever seen. You couldn't touch them, describe them, call by the names you think it's proper. No. It was the worst time the world lived through. Thank God some bold people came through and said enough is enough. But that is not the end. Over-pampering of children, sanitizing of children, highly misinformed and dangerously misunderstood population of human beings walking the earth right now, demanding every moment and every second of the day. It is their way or the highway. Because the last decade has raised, prepared, pampered, and fed this huge population of people that they are human. And therefore, being human, everybody in this world should always treat them first as humans. And yet nobody has defined for them what does it mean, human. When you have to rely on someone for your diapers, you were human. When you have to rely on someone to stick some part of his body into your mouth so you can have milk, you were human. When you have to rely on someone to take you to the poo-poo room, you were human. But now, even the Bible says it, when I was a child, I thought like a child, acted like a child, and played like a child. But now I'm no longer a child. You see the difference? It is not talking about child in terms of an age. It's talking about the demand on us to move from the emotion. When Mary Magdalene was brought to the town square to be stoned, that is all pure emotions. People who have only remained on the human level. Oh, nothing was going upstairs. Luckily, there was a free thinker, the only man who came on earth and declared himself free, and he suffered for it. But boy, the power of living radical freedom, which was the story about Jesus Christ. He simply used intellect, not emotion. He didn't tell them, you guys are wrong. You know, she's a human being. How can you stone a human being? No, he didn't do that. He turned the question around. That was the beginning of the birth of rethinkers. For any one of you here who have never sinned, he's asking you to look into yourself. Cast the first stone. You see, it was not a statement he made. No. Like, she's a woman and a human being. Well, who dare you to say she can't use her body to do what she was doing? Oh no, that is emotional only. And you make the case worse because you are calling the multitude of people here saying they're wrong. Nobody likes to be told they are wrong. So he didn't say that. He didn't say, oh, please, I urge you all to have forgiveness in your heart. They don't even know what you're talking about. So he turned the question using intellect instead of emotion. Because they came with emotion, he elevated himself and he asked them to come along with him to the intellect level. So he didn't see Mary Magdalene simply as a human being. Nope. He saw a moment and he gathered enough information around that moment to make that decision by simply saying, treat them, bring them up to an intellectual level by giving them a question. And one by one, they dropped the stones, man. The story is far more powerful than you were told. But they have to bring in some characters. That story speaks to all of us. So if you want to be a free man, then you need to consider this. Any man who cannot resolve conflict in public over simple things like a word misunderstood, you are not free. You can be controlled. You are predictable because you have allowed yourself to be at a human level. The people mentioned in this video and accused of they are not human. No, Candace and that woman were not talking about, oh, they don't give charity. No, they were not talking about these people are fathers. They raise children. They hug their children. They kiss their wives. They're not talking about that. You can go on your video and say these things about them, right? But they are not going to go on a video and say that thing about you because they have elevated themselves above the human. You cannot understand them, so you said they are not human because you think the way you are and you scream and you have conflict with everything every day. And that being stopped by law enforcement is an infringement on your freedom because you've been told you are human. But you see, every moment, you have such disagreeable moments with even law enforcement, with teachers in your classroom, with coaches. Every time you have a disagreement they cannot handle, being told very calmly to leave a certain location that doesn't belong to you and go away, and you couldn't handle that, and it has to result in death caused by you, you are now free. Only people who are not free resort to violence. So, how do you know when you can tell people have elevated themselves above the human level or they are free or not free? Any society, any community, any neighborhood where violence against each other is rampant, they are not free. and nobody calls it. Because the education, the physical environment, and the sentiments they were fed from childhood, they continue to live in the sociological diapers. They are still being cared for. Oh, is it not true that when you go to Africa, we don't separate with babies? We don't like babies to cry. As soon as they cry, we pick them up because we have very little information about pediatric care. Let's admit it. Very little information. I came here to learn that actually babies crying is good. I've seen my friend, who's not black, allow her babies to cry enough before she would go to them. According to her, it helps them to learn self-control, independence, and also good for the lungs and other parts of the human body. We carry our babies on our back tight until sometimes they are almost about 6 years old. We sleep with them in the same bed. So we create this bond that keeps people at a certain level. In those societies, you see violence often too common. The inability to conflict resolve, always too common. The level of inconsiderate behavior, always common. You don't care how your neighbor is feeling. You can blast your music in your car to any level of the volume. As long as you feel good, that's all it matters. Because you are still too human. You haven't developed above the humanness. So anything that satisfies you, you believe is good for me. Because you've been told time and again, you're human, which for you means as selfish and obnoxiously selfish as I can be. If it's good for me, then it's going to be good for society. But other people, the most complex, well-developed, organized societies believe if my actions can be good for society, it would ultimately become good for me and my people. We got to begin to include in our discipline for our children, our interaction for our children, first and foremost. How much are we giving them for them to have the tools to elevate themselves beyond human, become less human, become less human. The world has become full of technology, and so you can see, for those of you who know, or if you haven't, you may want to Google and read about it. Two libraries in New England that blew my mind, the Darien Library and the Westport Library. They spent $26 million to renovate this children's section all the way to the pavilion, art, music, literature, you name it. They have full staff, PhD holders who carefully select the books, the movies, the plays, the toys that comes into the children's section. That place is staffed 85% volunteers because they understand the power of a library in a town. The child's life is molded first and foremost from that place, scientifically. 95% of what the children who go to the Darien Library, the Westport Library, the Monroe, Trumbull, Greenwich libraries, what they are exposed to before they turn 6 and 9, birth to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 12 is all scientific, allowing them to develop a very, very heightened impulse control, emotional intelligence, ability to work with others, be less emotional and more intelligent, meaning they gather information all the time. Compare this library I have described, $25 million for a library. Renovation, not the building of it. and then go into your culture, wherever you come from, the Caribbean, Africa, wherever you come from. Look into your neighbor where you grew up, your neighborhood, your community, and ask, what was the quality of your library? Your parents were busy 18 hours a day looking for money so they can wear the best clothes and throw money during the best weddings and birthdays. They're never there with you. Your teachers spend 6 hours with you a day, and the rest of the day goes where? You know right there, if somebody asks you, who are you? Take a look at the library in your town. Our goal is not to remain just on the human level as Homo sapiens. That reduces you to nothing. No wonder we treat each other the way we do. But when you begin to elevate above the human, then you're becoming what? Intellectual. And you are not the one to treat people like they are animals, and they won't treat you like animals. And violence will be reduced in your community, your culture, or your society. That is the goal. So when you raise your voice at your children, be careful. You are bringing yourself and them just to the human level. When you spank your children, be careful. You're telling them you're nothing but a human being. The same way you can hit a dog or hit a cat. When your children come to you with questions and you scream and say you're asking too many questions, remember you're keeping them at the human level. That is not their essence on earth. They are not like appliances or tools where you decide the essence before you create them. So give them the foundation so they have the tools to go above being human and then decide by choice what is going to be their essence on earth. And that will drive them like Elon Musk, drive them like Peter Thiel, drive them like Jeff Bezos, and they won't focus on what is only consumed by emotions. And soon you see them and then you say, correctly so, but you think you are calling them names. They are not humans. And that is why we know their names, and they have created so much opportunities than anybody else. Thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, share this video. And especially, I want to hear your comments. Please stick to the subject. I'll see you next time. This is ZPR, Zanu Project Rethink. Bye.